All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. First of all, thanks for signing up for this class on Edge Elastic. Just a quick little introduction so you guys can be student leaders for your peers when we start using this in the classroom. So as I said, this is Edge Elastic. It's an assessment tool. As we get into it, you might start to see that it looks familiar to you. You'll probably recognize some of the features just because you've taken the AIR test, the state test in the past, and obviously many other versions of tests over your academic career. So without further ado, let's talk about Edge Elastic. So Edge Elastic is an assessment tool. It's where people like me, your teachers, can create tests, create quizzes, and create other academic activities where we can kind of measure your learning and gauge where you're at. So you probably don't really care what we create the tests on, but I think you're going to appreciate this because it has a lot of features that can really help you become more familiar with the testing platform and the skills that you need to be successful on your AIR tests and other high-stakes tests. So one of the things that we appreciate as your teachers is it's free. So it costs nothing for you to use it, it costs nothing for us to use it, and we appreciate that. Another feature that you'll notice is that you can log in with your Google account. So the school account that the school has created for you, your Google account, when you go to log in, you don't have to remember a username, you don't have to use a password. All you need is your Google account, and you click sign in with Google and you're in. You may have a lot of teachers using this, and so one of the benefits is that you can join multiple classes with a unique class code. So the way that I use it in my classroom is I put my class code right up on the board. I say, okay, type this in, boom, 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 and they're in from my class. And you can do that with all 7 of your teachers that you have throughout the day. So the graphic on the screen, you'll see that's a screenshot of my 3 classes that I have. I have 3 language arts classes, 3 block classes that I teach. So you can kind of see what it looks like just from my end. And that's one of the things that we're going to do today is I'm going to show you some of the things you'll see on your student pages, but also give you some kind of a peek behind the curtain so you see what I see as a teacher so you can kind of understand some of the features that help me teach you. So when you sign up, if you want to log in, you can. If you want to just follow along the screen, that's fine too. So the first time you go, you're going to have to click the sign up button. It's up here in the top right-hand corner. Excuse me. And obviously you can see the sign in with Google button right there. You click it. Saves you the process of going through username and password. That's not necessary. You'll get in. Okay, so once you click that sign in with Google button, it will ask you for a class code. And that's obviously going to be provided for you by your teachers. So here's another screenshot from my end. You can see I've got my 3 classes, LA1, LA2, LA3. Those are my 3 language arts classes this year. They each have a unique code. Some teachers prefer to use one class for all of their students. Personally, I like to split it up so that if I have a test unique to LA1, 2, or 3, I can assign it to them and not have to include all the students in the class. Now, one of the cool features is if, Jacob, let's say you're sick and I want to assign the test, but I don't want you to have access to it, there's actually features on my end that I can have it delayed or prevent you from getting into the test. And then another feature that works really well with this is the lock test mode. Once you actually get into it, I can lock you into the screen so you just see your tests. So here's another screenshot, just kind of walk you through some of the things that I see on my end. I'm curious to see what jumps out to you guys from what you see here. Anything?
You can see the average score.
Yes. So that's one of the things that, believe it or not, this is real time. So it shows up in real time as you're taking the test. So obviously these are all graded. It says that in green down here at the bottom of all the scores. But if I said, okay guys, sign up and take a test today, I can see how each one of you guys is doing as you answer each individual question. So I can see if Jacob's doing really well and Jacob never does well. I can say, hey Jacob, great job, keep it up, you're doing great work. Or if Andrew is really struggling, I can quietly go over to him and say, hey, you might want to double check some of your answers with the text because you're not doing as well as I'm sure you would like to. So that's one of the ways that I use it in my classroom is the real-time features that allow me to see how you're making progress. It also lets me see maybe somebody is stuck on a question. If I see that one of you is on the same question for a long period of time, I can go intervene. And so this blue line up here is actually the time spent on each individual question, which is cool, because for me, after the test, if I go in and I see, well, it looks like we didn't do very well on one of these questions, I can go and look and see how long did you spend on that question. Maybe all of my students struggle to get the right answer because they spent 3 seconds on the question instead of spending the time to go look it up and find the answer. So if you haven't figured it out, the green is correct answers, the red is incorrect answers. So that lets me see which questions are we doing really well on, which questions are we struggling with, and anything in between that. So you can see question 3 on this particular assessment was a challenge. There were more students who got that one wrong than right, but on the plus side, at least they spent their time trying to figure it out. You can see that that was the question that took the most time in terms of just the time elapsed. Another feature that I really like that you may see your teachers using is it's called present mode. There's a button that I can click and it sets up all the student names to just show up as generic green bucket type names instead of seeing your name and your score attached to it. You know, for example, if you're the student that got a 53% on that assessment, you're probably not really proud of that, and you don't want all your friends and your peers to know I got 53%. So I can put this on the screen and just kind of talk in general about results. If I say, hey, I want to show you, the class average, or I want to show you how much time you did or didn't spend on a question, I can do that with this screen. I can do that in present mode so that nobody is having their scores made public to the entire class or to the group of friends that they're with. So those are some features that I can see on here. So on the previous screen, I'll go back one more time. So this is a class average, all the right and wrong answers. It has an average of time spent on the questions. It has the breakdown of how everybody's doing. Over here, this is a breakdown by student. So you got the by class average, but you've also got the by student average. And so you can see for this particular student, they missed question 3, question 8, 12, 14, and 15. You can see that they spent the most time on question 4, 12, and 15. And so this is a data point, or this is a graph that I can access for any one of you guys while you're taking the test or after you take the test. And so that maybe allows us to have a one-on-one conference and talk about your effort, your strategies that you're using as you're taking the test, talk about questions that maybe you found difficult, and it gives me more data, but it's also something that I can use to facilitate discussions with you. And similar to this view, you've also got the screen where I can see your individual performance. I can see which questions you got right, which questions you got wrong, and like I said, that's in real time, so I can talk to you about that during the test. I can talk to you about that after the test. And if I click on that, it'll take me through every single answer that you have on the test, right, wrong, or otherwise. So that's what this view does for you. You pointed out the class average. I've got the class average up here. But this is if I would click on one particular student, it's going to show here's what you answered. Unfortunately, this one was wrong. Here's what the correct answer was. And that way, if you're not sure, it gives you feedback in real time. So a couple of ways, there's features that I can use to set up the specifications of when you see this screen. I can set it up so it's private and I don't release the scores until everybody's done. So go back to that example where Jake was absent. Maybe I want to keep your scores private until he comes back and takes the test, so you can't feed him answers before he takes the test. So that's an option that I can prevent you from seeing this. Or if it's something that I just want you to get feedback, it's a formative assessment, I want you to get feedback in the moment, I can release those scores immediately as soon as you click submit, you see, and you can get feedback on, okay, here's what I answered, here's what the right answer was, and you can start thinking about what can I do to get this right in the future. One of the things that I've done in the past is I release the scores immediately, and then I offer corrections that day, the day of the test while it's still fresh, and then you can go back and use notes, you can use the text, you can use whatever resources you need to, and then write an explanation of here's how I know that the document is the right answer now, beyond just obviously the program told me that's the right answer. Over on the far side here, you can see points per question, which obviously this was only out of 1 point, so that doesn't mean a whole lot to you. But on multi-part questions, or if you guys have ever done the multi-selection where you have to check different boxes, maybe it's worth 5 points. And so you can see how many points you got out of the total possible. And so that's a feature that helps you, helps me. Right below that, there's a comment box. If I want to give you individual instructions, I can click on that and I can give you a comment. Like, hey, double check your work or double check the unit 2.7 notes to help you with this question. Whatever information I think you might need. And then down here is another place where they show you time spent on the question. So you can see this student spent a grand total of 14 seconds, and that maybe contributed to why they didn't get it right, because I'm willing to bet if you read the question and read all the answers, it probably takes you close to 14 seconds just to do that. So that's a way that I can foster conversation with you guys. You might have teachers calling you out if you're rushing through a test. They can call you out and say, hey, slow down, take your time. So some features that are going to be on this program, EduElastic, that are going to match up with your air test. So this is kind of a screenshot of what a question looks like. You'll see that it gives you the question number out of the total. It gives you an option to flag. It gives you an option to remove answers, cross out answers. And so that's kind of what it looks like. If you click this X here, you can remove answers to narrow it down to, okay, I know it's either B or C. Now you got a 50-50 shot because you know A and D are not possibly potentially right answers. If you click the pancake button, you'll see this drop-down menu. You can navigate this way. There's also a next button that'll help you navigate from one question to the next. And after you click next, because obviously this is number one, there's going to be a previous button where you can click backwards if you need to navigate. And so those are all very, very similar to what you're going to see on your air test and other standardized tests. For example, like the OGT, if you're taking that online, or the ACT, and things like that. This screen should also look very familiar. This is the final screen. After you click submit once, it takes you to this screen so you can see which questions you've answered, which questions you haven't answered, and which questions you flagged for review or marked for review. So once you're positive, you like what you've done, you're satisfied with your work, you click submit. But obviously, the person taking this test, which was me, just to give you a sample, probably wants to go back and answer all these questions that they did. Okay, so everything with the red exclamation point, it says up here, please review your unanswered questions before submitting the test. So if you ever see that, you know, oh shoot, I didn't answer that, I've got to go back and I've got to answer that question. Hey, give me a thumbs up if you've heard of the flag tool. Have you done that? Okay. So that's something you've probably done on your state tests or on other tests. So if you flag it, that's what it looks like. So now switching over, this is your air test comparison. So now these are screenshots from the air practice test. Obviously I can't screenshot the real thing, but this is the practice test that Ohio Department of Education puts out. And you can see the format is very, very, very similar. You get your question, you get your number. Navigation is a little bit different. You click through, but there's still a lot of the same features. You'll see, I also use the strike through, the cross out and answer, because I know it's not right option. Instead of the red X, you can see this was just grayed out, and now it's down to A, B, or C, because we know D is not even a possible right answer. Okay, so here's a couple more screenshots. So again, if you get the red, it's a triangle in this case instead of an exclamation point. It tells you you did not answer this question. The flags, instead of being gold, show up gray, but the layout and the organization of that looks very, very similar. I'm going to go back one slide so you can see, excuse me, two slides so you can see that's EduElastic, that's the program that we're working with, that's the air test. They look very similar. And so that's one of the things that I think we as your teachers appreciate, and I think you guys will appreciate just getting some practice with those. The other two images on the screen are different types of questions, a part A, part B question, and this is the checkboxes question that I was talking about earlier, where you have to check different boxes to apply. So those are both types of questions that you're potentially going to see on your air test. These are the types of questions that EduElastic also has in their database, so we can set up questions that look and feel just like the air test. All right, so we've reached the end of the comparison. Do you guys have any questions on what is EduElastic, how do we use it, anything like that? No? You feel pretty confident? Okay, so the last thing I want you to do, just for my reference, scale of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel you can log into EduElastic and get started and be successful? Show me on your fingers, 1 through 10. 1's bad, 10's good. Nice. All right, I feel like I should give myself a pat on the back. Thanks, you guys have been a great audience. Appreciate your time.